7:14 on this September 3rd. At microphone number 2 is our Sheriff, John Montgomery. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
How's it going?
It's been a very boring last month.
Boring? I guess that's good in police business.
Yeah, well, I'm being very facetious, of course. It has been really, really hectic. Just seems like lots of crazy stuff going on, of course, not only here, but around the country.
You noticed our blue ribbons out here?
Yes, I did. I noticed that when I walked up, the blue ribbons, and been hearing several people promote the fact that on Friday, tomorrow, everybody wear blue. Tie a blue ribbon around your antenna on your car, if you have one, or a piece of blue tape, painter's tape across your back window or something like that, just to support law enforcement.
I got window chalk. I'm going to chalk a blue line if it'll work.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm going to try that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's getting crazy, Sheriff. I mean, it's the mentality. I mean, I'm speechless here. You've got a 47-year-old sheriff deputy in Houston, Texas, buying gasoline for his car, probably on the way home after a day at the office, so to speak, and is basically executed.
I don't think I don't think basically executed is. I think he was executed. And if you think about it, on that case, you see the guy walk up behind him, shoot him, and after he hit the ground, shot him 14 more times. That's all the ammo that the gun would hold, and continued to shoot.
In Illinois, we've got a 30-plus year veteran in that PD there. And 3 men still at large. Yeah, and there's other reports around the country. Another one where excuse me, the officer was out taking a vandalism report and was a victim of a drive-by shooting. Didn't die, but I mean, it has become truly a is this monkey see, monkey do? Or is it people want attention? They want in the news. They want in the papers. What is it?
Oh, I don't know that I have the answer, and probably every case a little bit different. But you have the thug mentality that's out here. Some of them wanting to make a name for themselves. Some wanting to impress their other thug buddies. It's a war on cops right now, and
so they want to be like a Lee Harvey Oswald or a Mark David Chapman, or why would you want to be known for somebody that murdered a policeman?
Well, and in many cases they probably think they're going to get away with it. I mean, but and most of the time they don't. They're eventually caught. But it's very sad. I mean, the thin blue line, which is what of course you're talking about, represents that, because you look at the number of police across the country and the number of bad guys. I mean, we're obviously and that's the purpose of thin blue line. We're the ones that's protecting society, the good folks society, from the criminal element. And so if you think about it, if there was no such thing, if all of a sudden the police went away for a week, there'd be total chaos. So while there's certainly not every policeman's perfect, some make mistakes, are some actually criminals themselves? The answer is yes. But show me another profession where that's not true as well. I don't care if you're talking about doctors or lawyers or bankers or wherever. You have the same issue wherever. And so, while nobody likes to get that speeding ticket or whatever, we as a society, and I'll even say here in Baxter County, we have great law enforcement. I don't care if you're talking about city, county, state officers. We have great law enforcement here. And we do... We're very fortunate that we get the support from the community we do. But this country, I'm telling you, it's become a war on cops. And
how do we stop it?
Well, I don't know if there is such a thing. Stop it. But I'll just tell you, and you will have not heard me be on your radio show, any other radio show, or heard me in public criticize or be disrespectful to the president or the United States. But I think in this case, and that's because I respect the office, by the way.
Sure.
I'm not necessarily talking about the person, but I respect that office. But I'm going to tell you, I think in a large part, the President of the United States and former Attorney General Eric Holder are largely to blame for the attitude. When they jumped in at Ferguson before they knew the facts, and they stirred up, in my opinion, they created the atmosphere that has spread across this country. Now, having said that, if that was a mistake, which obviously it was, then what I want to know is why the President of the United States, Eric Holder, and those did not stand up and say, you know what, we were wrong. We made a mistake, and that was not an execution. That officer did not do anything wrong. And if they had done that, then I don't think you would see at least the widespread attack on law enforcement across this country. And because of that, and then what really frustrates me, there's been lots of police shootings across this country. But when you take what happened in Houston, Texas, the execution of that deputy who was at a gas station, I want to know where the president was standing up and going, you know what, that needs to stop.
Yeah, where was he? He was in Alaska, changed the name of Mount McKinley.
You know, and again, I'm not, and I want to make it clear, this probably is one of the first times that I have been very critical, but I think there's at least a large part of blame there. And if a mistake was made, then be man enough to stand up and say, you know what, I was wrong. A leader needs to lead and help this country heal. Mm-hmm. I've now climbed off my soapbox.
Well, I agree. And I guarantee 99% of everybody around here is going to agree, because we were discussing it before we went on the air. It seems like...
and let me say this one more thing, sorry. Yeah. And this is not a Republican-Democrat thing.
No.
I don't care if he was Republican. I don't care. It doesn't make any difference. It is a leader needs to show leadership and to help this country pull together in time of crisis.
You know, I remember the civil rights unrest of the 60s. We were discussing it with some people that have been in and out on the program. I remember when the St. Louis Cardinals won the World Series in Boston in 1967. My dad worked in St. Louis. We lived in Illinois, and he was late coming in because they were, get a load of this, setting fires in St. Louis to celebrate the World Series. You know, what kind of mentality is that? And my grandfather used to tell me all kinds of stories about being on the, he worked for Terminal Railroad that was a hub in St. Louis. They'd bring the trains in, and, you know, you'd have a train come in from California, going to Baltimore, run from Chicago, going to New York, whatever, you know, and they put the proper cars on the proper tracks. And just the issues of running a train between Southern Illinois and St. Louis, unbelievable. You know, we remember, you know, just city after city erupting. It's almost like they want a protest, like the church shooting in Charleston, South Carolina. They kept stirring and stirring and stirring, and the result of a mass murder in a church in Charleston, South Carolina, resulted in the Confederate flag coming down. How many lives were lost there? 13, 14 people? And they're blaming it on a flag. And even the reporter that was killed in Roanoke, Virginia, her dad's blaming the gun. I think we've got some mental issues here.
We are and of course I've argued this for a long time. We no longer take responsibility for our own actions, and we don't teach our kids to do that.
No.
And so again, it's the way they were raised, or there's always, it's
there's
the
always
gun.
The excuse.
There's always an excuse instead of, you know what, that person did wrong and needs to be held accountable.
Okay, what if the guy in Roanoke, Virginia, he'd use a crossbow? We gonna blame the crossbow? Makes about as much sense. I mean, my guns are not a weapon until I put them in my hand. They haven't hurt anything sitting on the shelf for the last 15 years, you know? I don't understand. I mean, how do you guys put up with this stuff? Okay, what kind of training do you have to protect? I mean, how could the officer in Houston have even known? I mean, you've got traffic. You know how it is when you're buying gasoline. If you go down here to Casey's, you've got 62 412 business, people going in and out of like a Harps and the banks and everything. Somebody walks up, you have no idea what's in their hand, what they're thinking, and just to be sitting there holding the pump handle in the gas tank and you get shot in the back of the head.
Yeah, I mean, you can be, and certainly, of course, after that incident, and we have had some copycats of that around, in areas not very far from Mountain Home, we've had alerts put out by other law enforcement that there's been some threats made that they're going to do the same thing to cops at gas stations. So our officers have been alerted around here. But you can be more, I guess, more aware of your surroundings. We try to teach that, but you know as well as I do, you're at the gas station, you're getting gas, somebody walks up, talks to you, speaks to you, says hi as they walk by. Again, it's, you can't stand there pumping gas. I mean, think realistically, you're not going to pull your gun, stand there and scan 360 degrees while you're pumping gas. I mean, that's not logical. Yeah. So, no more than you can, you're not going to pull your gun and walk up in every traffic stop. So, it's just the problem again is it's a lack of respect and the lack of taking responsibility, in my humble opinion.
And I'll give you my opinion about the Roanoke reporter and cameraman. The man had been on the newscast in Tallahassee, Florida. Then he went to North Carolina station. Then he was at Roanoke, or maybe one or two others in between the North Carolina and the Roanoke. And the gist of it was he was mediocre. But in his own mind, he was like, I want to be in New York or I want to be in L.A. And like I say, this is just my opinion. When he couldn't get the attention that he thought he deserved, then he became a gay African-American. And that still didn't gain him the attention. And so to gain attention, like Lee Harvey Oswald, basically his brother has said, he wanted the attention. Mark David Chapman assassinated John Lennon because he wanted the attention. Do you think that he wanted that type of attention? Hey, look what I did. I just killed a reporter and they're more popular than me, though, in his own mind. Because here you got the cute little 24-year-old blonde girl that she aced every test in high school, was top-notch in college, the whole 9 yards. Was he jealous of her accomplishments at age 24? Was it was vindictive? Was he wanting attention? Who knows?
Don't know.
Unbelievable.
But again, where is the outrage? That's my frustration. Where is the outrage of this type of stuff going on?
Well, it was good to see that they made a memorial in Houston. People circled that gas station. They had prayer chains around the gas station. They had flowers and everything else. They've just shut that pump island down there in Houston. And I know there's some vigils going on in Fox Lake for the slain officer there. No, we don't know the circumstances there. We don't know if that was a murder robbery or if he come upon some guys. We don't know, and probably won't know until they catch the guys. But
well, I think at least the symbolic gesture of wearing blue tomorrow, blue ribbons, whatever. Actually had a lady come by and it was very touching. She came by the day before yesterday, walked in and handed us a check. It was $100. And she said, I want you to take this and I want you to use it for something because I just want you to know how much we as the community appreciate what you all do. And it was just that gesture of someone saying thank you, patting you on the back, etc. We do have great law enforcement here. There is no question. I'm very proud of cities and counties.
You've got a good office. You've got good staff. You don't get elected to the Arkansas Sheriff's Association president for nothing.
Well,
to me, that's an honor.
Well, it is. It's an extreme honor for me, but yes.
Well, to have our sheriff in that position, I think it's an honor for the county. Yeah. Got a minute before we go to break. What can we talk about for a minute?
You pick. I'm brain dead.
I can imagine. Tomorrow, I've got promos running on Mountain Talk. I don't know if we got them on Mountain Country or not, but we made a promo. Friday, September 4th is Blue Friday. Wear blue. I've already put ribbons out here. I've got to get my vehicle taken care of. I think I gave 84 cents for a little half-inch wide strip of ribbon, and it's got like 18 feet on it. So there's plenty of ribbon for radio antennas and door handles or whatever, but we've got to show our support for these.
And if you see an officer, just go up and say thank you.
Yeah.
It really does mean a lot. And not just the officers, but I'm going to tell you the spouses of the officers. I mean, the stress level that the families of the officers, when they leave, and when these things happen across the country, it increases that stress level
it does.
even more.
Visiting with Baxter County Sheriff John Montgomery. Time for the news. We will be right back. Oh, 7:35 on this Thursday. You're kidding me, right?
Yeah.
I was telling the sheriff that I've got an old car for sale. I've got an old 75 Chrysler sitting in my yard with for sale sign. It's legal. I mean, I got current license and insurance on it, so don't violate any city ordinances for having an abandoned vehicle. But young boy stopped by last night to look at it. What's a carburetor? Well, that's how we used to put fuel in the engine and before injection. Never seen it's got a Holly 2245 on it. But anyway, getting back to our sheriff, I'm going to let you talk for a while. It seemed like we dominated that conversation. I don't know, this stuff with the policemen, it makes me mad. You know, they're there for a reason, and the badge demands respect.
Well, again, I think there's been a lack of respect for some time for people of authority, and by that I'm talking about teachers. It's not that anyone is necessarily more important, but as a kid growing up, I mean, my parents taught me there's certain folks. I mean, you were supposed to respect all your elders, but there was certain folks you better, by golly, not disrespect. Ministers, teachers, police officers. I mean, those people you just did not. I mean, those were, and so I do think that is missing. I think that's gone away. And so we see it, of course, all the time out here, the people that don't respect law enforcement. But talk to teachers. You talk, I mean, they same thing. And it's just, to me, it's a fundamental problem.
How much does entertainment play in the mentality of younger people? Thumb through the channels, and we've talked about this maybe perhaps with you on the show before, but I think I was watching like Disney Channel or Nickelodeon going through and caught some kids, and they wanted to do something, and the dad or the father figure said, no, you're not going to do that. So they manipulate and connive and come up with a way to do what they wanted to do after being told no. Now, what's that teaching our kids? And then, of course, they say, well, I was wrong, and the kids come out on top. What that's saying is whether dad is right or wrong, he said no. Okay, so let's say that I disagree with a 55-mile speed limit between here and Jeep. The sign says 55. I want to do 65. But what's going to happen if you're sitting there with your radar and I'm doing 65 and you say, Dale, the sign said 55? See my point? The point is whether or not I'm right or wrong, the law said 55. And that's what your job is.
Yeah, and you go back to many of the issues, it all boils down to an officer gave someone a lawful order and they did not obey the officer. And they're required by law. Okay? Mm-hmm. And so in many of those cases, and I go back from Ferguson to Baltimore to all these other issues, it comes down to if the person had followed the lawful order by that officer, those incidents would not have happened.
Wouldn't have happened.
Yes. If you feel like you're being wrong, there's a time and a place to deal with that in a court of law at a later point.
Mm-hmm. That's how it's set up. I don't know. Okay, how come I got more gray hair than you do, and you're the I mean, how do you deal with these things?
Well, and I'm
going to take it all in stride.
Well, there's a couple things. One, I can tell you that it is very stressful to the officers, staff, but we have regular brief and debrief sessions. We debrief after any critical incident. We evaluate the job we do. We encourage our officers, please, try not to take this stuff home because, again, the families suffer. You think about sometimes what we see and the officers see out there, accident scenes, you name it, and then they have to go home. I'm very fortunate. My wife is Karen has been great because she can tell when my stress level gets to, past the what, I don't know if it's normal or whatever, and she makes it a point to make sure we either take a trip or does something, something to help de-stress. And I think that's what I would encourage, anyone
Okay, what about for your officers? Okay, let's say you have a tragic accident and there's mangled people, and that's psychologically damaging. Is there some type of, I don't want to use the psychiatric, sounds so
Well, we have
couch type. I'm not saying that it's a mental issue, but somebody that they can talk to in confidence.
Well, the answer is yes. There is. If you have a major incident, we actually can call in crisis teams, if you will, that to deal with. And it's not just officers; it's first responders. It's anyone that would have been involved. But on a more small note, and it may be a small incident, but it may be just a traffic accident. That where someone's killed or hurt severely, or dealing with an issue where a child's been hurt or killed, or and so in those type cases, yes, we do have counselors available, strictly in confidence that the officers are made to the officers. And when I say in confidence, again, those not even I mean they know they can contact those counselors in complete private. It's just important. Stress is a killer. And you joke about the gray hair, but I've seen the pictures of myself, and my family typically doesn't have gray hair. I've got a whole lot more than I had 10 years ago. Now, having said that, I'm not complaining about my job. I love my job, or at least 95% of the time. I really do. I mean, I've been in law enforcement now more than 25 years. I do love what I do. So that's not a complaint when I do that, and I am blessed. I've got an incredible management team staff that takes so much pressure off me. I mean, I cannot imagine trying to do this job if I didn't have the management team I have in place. Because we're not Mayberry anymore, and we're not.
No.
If you look around the news and just in the last couple of weeks, you can see it's not Mayberry. But we still, having said this, we live in God's country. Again, do you worry about going to the grocery store at 10 o'clock at night? No. You don't, because we are very fortunate, and most of that's because the people in this community support us so much, and they watch their neighbors, and they take care of each other, and that's so important, because it's all of us working together to keep our community the safe place it is.
Got about 3 minutes. Take two there. Wow, that surprised me. Got about 3 minutes before we take another break. Prison overcrowding. Jail population.
Is that a broken record?
Chip,
record, by the way, for some of you folks. That's
yeah. I had Jerry Cox was up here from Family Council, and Luke McCoy, whose uncle, I believe, is pastor out here at one of the local churches. And we got to talk about old electronics, and Luke had never seen a reel-to-reel tape recorder. I just happened to have one in the van. Brought it in, plugged it in right here at the counter. Wow, yeah, it's funny what kids haven't seen anymore. But
no, I know.
Yeah, jail overcrowding. Where are we at with this? I know that the governor. Well, you were here when we talked with Governor Hutchinson.
Yes. I mean,
of course, this is a long process, but is that a step in the right direction so far?
I do think so, and I do have to give my hats off to Governor Hutchinson. He has really made a commitment to try to help this problem. Now, it's not a quick fix. If there was a quick fix,
it would have been done.
It would have been done. But again, they're trying to do more programs with reentry. They're trying to change some of the sentencing structure. They're trying to add more beds. I mean, it's a overall thing. They're shipping inmates out of state temporarily. Have I got time to explain how the jail overcrowding works? Okay. Yeah. The way what happens is, and we call it jail overcrowding, jail backup. So what happens when a person goes in front of a judge sentences them to prison. Okay, you're sentenced to 5 years, 10 years, whatever. So at that point, in most cases, they are transferred from the courtroom to our jail. Now, sometimes it's back to jail. Sometimes they've been out on bond, whatever. They now go to our jail, and they sit there until the paperwork's processed, which usually takes about a week, okay? And in that paperwork, once it's correct, then they're on the waiting list to go to prison, okay? Well, in the old days when we had the backup, in other words, the folks sitting in jail waiting to go to prison, we can't take them until the prison calls us and said, hey, we have a bed open, bring them on. When it got to be about 1,000 folks backed up in the county jails, it was considered a crisis. I mean, that's a lot of folks backed up in the county jails. We're at 2,800 and something this morning.
2,800.
Okay, so what I get frustrated about is the solution that keeps being thrown around is we got to figure out a way to stop sending folks to prison, and we need to start letting them out quicker. Well, that's what, in my opinion, got us in the mess that we're in, because in 2011, Act 570 reduced the penalties for all drugs, most of the thefts and burglaries, and then made it more difficult to send someone to prison. And what it did was, yes, it took that 1,300 that was backed up at that time and made it about 200. And that was fine for about a year.
And then they backstabbed.
And then all of a sudden, the backlash started happening. Because it's no different. If you take a teacher, if a teacher tells the kids, now y'all behave, I'm going to be back in an hour. How many of those 30 kids will behave?
One, maybe.
Well, even half of them, okay? Mm-hmm. But the other half are not going to behave unless they're watched.
Yeah.
Well, it's no different when you take someone that's on parole or probation. There's some of them that you tell them these are the rules, you need to abide by them, they will. There is many others, though, that have to be watched closely. And when 570 did that, and they reduced all of that, and they now have this huge influx of parolees and probationers, and these probation and parole officers have 130 clients apiece they're trying to take care of, not possible. And so now they're not being watched, and so as a result, it is a backlash, and we're now at a huge crisis in a prison overcrowding, in my opinion.
And the fix is expensive.
And the fix is expensive.
Quick break. Be right back. 7:50 on this September 3rd. Can you believe it's already September? You know we're going to be in the parade in 2 weeks?
Yes, I do. Fair parade.
Fair parade. Probably, I'm guessing, I don't have the papers. I'm going to assume on the 16th. It's Wednesday.
16th, 5:30.
Yep.
Line up at no later than 5, and parade starts at 5:30, and then, of course, the fair's that week.
Yep.
Busy time for us. 4th of July and the fair are our two busy, areas for long.
I'm glad we brought this up because, you take that Friday and Saturday night, those two evenings. Well, I don't know where they all come from, but it's, you get out there on Friday night about 7 o'clock, Saturday night about 6, 7 o'clock. Excuse me, there's a lot of people out there.
Yeah, and we have really made a conscious effort in the last several years. We have a lot of reserve officers that work for us. We have full-time officers. We really put a lot of personnel in the fairgrounds and around the fairgrounds as a preventive maintenance because, again, we got a lot of folks, they're being watched. Okay?
Yep.
And so we have been fortunate, knock on wood, that we've not had any incidents really of any significance there in the last several years. And that's what we want. I mean, we want folks to be able to go out there, feel safe, and have a great time.
And a lot of it, give credit where credit's due. Your officers do a good job, but also the fair board, Glenn Preby and company, and I think Mrs. Coleman, the people they bring in to run the carnival has a very good reputation. They've used them for many, many years. I think they're out of Imperial, Missouri. But they bring some decent people in. Sometimes carnivals are not the safest place to be, with the guys behind the games and stuff. But they bring in some decent people.
They do. And we have, it's an effort by the fair board, law enforcement, carnival. I mean, we all work together to try to make sure that, again, folks can come out, have a good time, and feel safe.
Yeah. What have we not covered?
Probably talk about maybe the open carry.
Oh, yeah. Have you talked with Leslie Rutledge?
Well, I've actually spoken with Attorney General Rutledge several times over this issue. She gave her ruling I think it was last Friday, wasn't it? I believe it was.
I heard about it while I was in Tennessee. I think it made some news.
But here, and there are some folks that are making, oh my good, now it's legal. Well, folks, nothing has changed in 2 years. This is sort of what, I don't know, I don't say the word frustrates me, but it's like everybody's trying to make a big deal of something that has not changed in 2 years. Mm-hmm. And I want to go back briefly and talk about what happened 2 years ago. Sure. And I say 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. The legislatures, there was a bill introduced to make open carry. In other words, where you could just be out, let it be on your side, make it legal. That bill was voted down twice. So then they took an existing law on the books that said you could carry a weapon if you were on a journey. Now, that law's been on the books for umpteen years. The problem was they didn't say what a journey was. And there's been over the years many interpretations and, well, what does a journey mean? And you get one person saying, well, the journey means this or whatever, but there was no legal definition. So since the open carry got voted down, they took that law and said, well, we're going to define what a journey is. Mm-hmm. And so they said if you're traveling outside your county, you're considered on a journey. Okay? But it also, they added under 2 or 3 words under another section that said, basically, if you're carrying that weapon for a lawful purpose. And because they added those words, it now made a huge confusion on whether or not that said you could carry openly or not. That was 2.5 years ago. Mm-hmm. Nothing has changed since then. And when they did that, truthfully, we in law enforcement, or I say we, I'm talking about, I'm not going to speak for all law enforcement, but here, we certainly felt like that meant you could carry openly. Okay? Well, the Attorney General has ruled, or excuse me, has not ruled, but gave an opinion, which
right.
again is her opinion.
Yeah.
I guess ultimately, this, someday the Supreme Court might have to weigh in, but that it's legal to carry openly. Well, we've felt that way for the last 2.5 years. However, it's not that simple, and this is what I want to caution folks. It's not like, oh, you either can carry openly or you can't. And here's why it's not that simple. Because there's several other laws and factors in place. Number one, all concealed carry laws still apply. So all those rules that you had under concealed carry, if you're going to carry it concealed, apply. You still cannot carry it in any government building because there's different laws that deal with that.
Right.
You cannot carry it on city or county-owned public property, which means you can't take it to the ball fields, you can't take it to the football fields, you can't take it to the soccer fields because there's a law that deals with that. There's also talks about the schools. While now they allow you to have it in your car in the school parking lot, you cannot carry it into school buildings. Mm-hmm. If a person has on their business a sign that says no guns or no weapons, if you step in there with a weapon, you are now trespassing and be arrested.
Yep.
Not for carrying it openly, but for violating that trespassing law. So what I say, it's not a simple yes or no. All I ask folks, use common sense. Just because you can,
don't mean you should.
Don't mean you should, or why would you?
Yeah.
So anyway, again, thank you for allowing me to be here, Dale.
Oh, I always look forward to it. Yeah, like I say, we got the open mic thing, so anytime you need to stop by, come on in.
All right.
That wraps it up. Thanks to our Sheriff John Montgomery. And remember, Blue Friday tomorrow. Wear blue, blue ribbons. Support our police, people. Thanks. See you tomorrow.